Hey, I'm Dan Slagan, CMO at Thrive5, and welcome back to another episode of Locals. Today we're here in Brighton, Massachusetts at Cambridge Naturals, a health and wellness store that's been open since 1974. Let's take a look.
Our store, we try to think of it as an opportunity to surprise and delight at every twist and turn. So you can't see what's at the back yet. You kind of have to go and discover that. But when you walk in, you get like a little taste of what we're all about: health and wellness products, body care, lifestyle supplies, things for sort of everyday living, but that can help you be a little bit more ecologically friendly in your life. And books, cards, bags, so there's a whole wide assortment, and you can already sort of see a variety of all the different things that we carry. Delicious chocolate.
And how do you think about everything in the store? Like, what does everything in the store have in common?
So all of the products are geared towards natural health and wellness, and that's a broad term, so that includes things like supplements for your health, includes clean body care products, but it also includes, healthy lifestyle products and products that were made ethically, so the people making them are healthy and well. They're not exposed to chemicals, they're getting paid a fair wage, they're working in safe conditions, and so we think about that in a really holistic way, not just in the end product or the end user. So it's a whole holistic approach to health and wellness. A lot of people are making the transition to natural cosmetics, so reducing the amount of chemicals that they're using on a daily basis. Women especially, but people of all genders, when they use lipstick, you're eating that lipstick every day, so you don't even think about it necessarily as like something you would need a clean product for, but if you're going to be eating it every day, it would be great if it weren't full of toxic chemicals. And to more of our supplement section. This is probably our most popular section in the store. This is our stress and sleep support section. We get a lot of questions about the products in this section. A lot of people are feeling, particularly stressed out in this era and maybe not able to sleep because of that. So we have a holistic conversation about these products with our customers.
Interesting. So the store, I think you mentioned, initially opened in 1974.
Yes.
Have you seen a particular uptick in the stress and wellness section of late? Like
when
did you really start to feel that?
It was around November 2016. No, no joke, that did happen, but it's been building for a while. I mean, we have such a culture in this country, and especially in the city, a culture of workism, a culture of ambition, and underlying level of stress that I think people are just starting to be honest about in this era, and also seeking solutions that are not things like opioids that have dramatic long-term consequences. So a more safe and effective solution for pain management, for stress, for sleep. More and more people are looking for those things. So culturally, I think we are shifting maybe to be more stressed out, but I also think we're recognizing it more and being more open and honest about it, which we didn't used to be. It used to be sort of like a stoic, New Englander, just, pull up your boots and get to it and don't talk about the fact that you're having a panic attack.
That's one of the funny things. I mean, the good news is it's being talked about a lot more, obviously in your world, in the startup world as well. But I remember I was talking to someone out in Los Angeles a couple weeks ago, and I was explaining to her, managing younger folks or anyone, and how they want to talk more about their personal lives and stress. And her comment was, "Well, no, you just live in Boston. It's been like that forever."
It's true.
Fair.
Yeah, the West Coast is, more evolved than we are in some ways. But yeah, no, it's important that we have these conversations, and also that people feel like they have a safe space to talk about it. And it's really hard to get a doctor's appointment these days. I don't know if the last time you tried to make one, but it's like you have to schedule it a few weeks out, and then maybe you want to get a therapist. And so none of these are a replacement for a really great therapist or even for prescription medication, but it might help you get through your day on a daily basis and just feel, you know, calm and okay and able to go to work. And that is huge when people are, you know, concerned about money and concerned about their future. So we're sort of a stopgap between those things. So this is our bulk herb and tea section. And we are, you know, sort of at the forefront of what is now known as the zero waste movement. And so people who are trying to reduce their plastic consumption and also just their, you know, tossable goods consumption will come here and stock up on bulk herbs so that they can just reuse the same container and refill when they need to. It keeps your products fresher longer because you're not, you know, you don't have this jar of turmeric powder sitting in your cabinet for 6 years that you're only using a little bit at a time, and we replenish frequently. So these are herbs and spices for both medicinal use and also culinary use, and so a lot of these herbs are what you would find in like our tinctures or herbal capsules, but you can use them to make your own tincture, your own herbal supplement, your own tea. So things like, for example, kava root. You could take that as a tincture, but you could also take the raw root and make that into a tea and drink that, and you would get the same or very similar benefits to taking the supplement. It's a little cheaper as well to do it that way. A lot of people coming in and making their own like sort of DIY body care products, like lip balms or salves.
So when people walk into the store, do they sort of inevitably find their way here? Is like the attraction wall?
Yeah, well, a lot of people come in and they'll say like, oh, do you carry herbs here? And then we'll show them this section and they're, oh my God, you have so many options. You know, it's one of the most popular things about the store, and it's wonderful to be known for that as well.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Nice.
And then this is our CBD selection.
Yep.
So I don't know if you have heard about CBD before.
Of course.
But yeah, cannabidiol.
In Massachusetts, you'd be hard pressed not to.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and this is all hemp derived. So it is not from marijuana. It is all less than 0.3% THC by law, and some of them are actually completely 100% THC free. And these are products that people use for stress support, for sleep support. Again, very popular these days.
Yeah.
And we talk about them also for inflammation. There are people who use it for healthy pain management. So, you know, my knee is aching, or I've got, you know, my back is out of whack, or anything like that.
And when did you guys start
helpful.
selling CBD products?
We started selling CBD products a little over 3 years ago,
Yeah.
and so we were one of the first in the state to start carrying it, especially in like the natural food store realm. And there are now it's being sold absolutely everywhere. I mean, even at the gas station. But the difference for us is that we study every product, we study every brand, we know the maker, we know where the hemp is coming from. We've had a third-party certificate of analysis to prove that what's on the bottle is in the bottle. So we're really careful to work with brands that are extremely high quality, that are honest, and that can also provide documentation to back that up. That's very important to us. So,
how has the conversation around CBD products changed at all over the past 3 years, particularly with the older generation? Or is it still the same, or has it changed, or is it a little less taboo to talk about it?
Yeah, I mean, people who you would never expect in a million years to walk into a shop and buy CBD are coming in to buy CBD. And so people who, you know, have come from very traditional backgrounds, never set foot in a natural food store, never smoke pot, you know, don't want anything to do with pot in terms of being marijuana. And they're coming in because they've heard from a friend or a relative that it's worked really well for them. A lot of those people tend to be a little bit more nervous about trying it because it's like, is this going to get me high? And so we have to have a conversation about that. No, it's not going to get you high, you know, but start out at a small dose if you don't want to feel more relaxed than you need to be. So it's been really interesting, you know, people's grandmothers are coming in, aunts, uncles, cousins, you name it, and we are generally able to find them a product that works well. And oftentimes we're also directing them over like, hey, try out the kava. If you don't want to try CBD, kava is a great way to go for stress. Turmeric is really great for inflammation. Maybe you want to take that in tandem with trying the CBD, because it's certainly not inexpensive. So it's also, we want to provide them with lots of different options and make sure, we're not just going to CBD just because it's popular, but this is definitely the right product for them. So this is our cooler, and it's a very similar selection to what's in our Porter Square location. Again, it's a lot of beverages, grab and go things that are made that are healthy. We've got a ton of kombucha. We've got this wonderful drink. I was just talking to the founders actually earlier when you guys came in, and they're called Waku, and it's an herbal beverage out of Ecuador, and it's all organic, really clean ingredients, and really delicious. So we focus on sort of that like perfect point between delicious, healthy, and like has a nutritional value to it.
Yeah.
And then some probiotics. As well, because part of being healthy is having a very healthy gut, and probiotics are one really great way to help build healthy gut, in addition to other things like eating fermented foods and not eating too much sugar and other stuff like that. But it's one way.
Having a mother who loved Korean food, I remember having kimchi as a small child, but it does seem like kombucha was one of the first things that brought the discussion of probiotics into the mainstream.
Totally.
But at this point now, that feels like it was a long time ago. How are you seeing that discussion either plateau or continue to grow, or what do people look for there?
Yeah, so I think more and more people are starting to understand that you can get probiotics from a variety of sources, and there are times when you need a supplemental probiotic because you just took a long course of antibiotics and killed off all the good bacteria as well as the bad bacteria, or you've been having long-term gut inflammation challenges that are over time have become detrimental to your health. And so a probiotic is a really good, effective way to address that issue. But there are things that you can do on a daily basis, like eating sauerkraut, eating yogurt, drinking kombucha, and I think more people are excited about that because it's like, oh, it tastes good, and I like eating this, rather than like, oh, one more pill I have to take. So kombucha is part of that, and and plenty of people discovering kombucha, and over time, more and more of these fermented foods have arrived on the scene. Like you said, sauerkraut, which has been around again for thousands of years, but has entered the popular culture probably in the last decade, and kimchi as well. More people are starting to eat kimchi in this culture. Obviously, they've been eating it in Korea forever. But we Westerners are starting to discover it, how delicious it is. Miso, and then all the other forms. And also for people who love yogurt but have found that dairy doesn't work so well for them, there is now coconut yogurt, there is now pili nut yogurt, which is amazing. And so you don't have to sacrifice the delicious taste of yogurt just because you can't eat dairy. There's an option for everyone.
Awesome.
And then also people are talking about things like prebiotics. So what is the food that you're eating that's helping the good bacteria flourish? And so thinking about gut and diet in a holistic sense, not just, oh, let me throw some probiotics at it, but how do I establish a good, healthy gut condition before even, adding the good bacteria in. I knew my parents were thinking about their eventual transition out, and it would, have felt heartbreaking at that time to say goodbye to it without the opportunity to see what we could do with it to grow it. So we moved back from Oregon and got involved, and that was 5 years ago. So ever since, we've been heavily involved in the day-to-day, and took over as co-owners, early on, and have been working with my parents to help them in their transition, and also figure out the growth of the business model.
Yeah. What's one piece of advice you would give to someone in your shoes 5 years ago who's about to start working with their parents in the family business? What's one thing you would say to them, or one thing you
Run
noticed?
in the other direction. No, I'm just kidding. I think it would be to establish, really good ground rules around the type of work environment that you want to have, the type of work relationship you want to have. I felt extremely lucky in that my parents have given both Caleb and I a lot of leeway, a lot of runway to test out our own ideas, to put our own spin on things, and to prove ourselves. They certainly gave us lots of guidance and feedback along the way, but they've given us a lot of wiggle room. So I think that's essential to a healthy working relationship, especially in a generational transition. And so, making sure that you have that level of open communication, that things aren't sort of like falling through the cracks or not being said over time. We have wonderful days, and then we have days that are more challenging working together, but by and large we have a mutual level of respect and appreciation and and thoughtfulness in how we communicate, and I think that's been essential to our success so far.
Right, I'm here with co-owner of Cambridge Naturals, Caleb Dean. Welcome.
Thank you.
So Caleb here is in charge of all things culture, employees, customer engagement. So we're very interested to hear about your role here.
Happy to be here.
So one of the things we were talking about earlier is this is a great store for people to physically come to. It's one of the main attractions of the store. How do you think about sort of the customer experience to start?
Yeah, that's a good question. We know that it's critical that humans interact with other humans on a daily basis. And one of our core values and focus on being in business is to provide a space for humans to interact and compassion and empathy and curiosity. So our goal is to really design spaces that allow and experiences for customers to come in and maybe if they're having a hard day, they're able to let off, just feel a little better. We often get when people walk through our doors, they're like, "Oh my God, it smells so nice in here." So we really want it to be a multi-sensory experience where people come in, they can taste things, they can touch things, they can feel things, they can engage with other human beings, they can laugh, they can smile. People often run into friends. So it's a real community space.
Yeah. Sounds easy.
Yes.
In practice, probably not so.
Totally.
How do you go about sort of employee education, whether it's a new employee or someone who's been with you? I know one of the things you have long tenured employees here.
Yeah.
So how do you go about educating someone who's been here for a while or someone who's a bit newer, or just how do you think about employee education as a whole?
Yeah, so training is really important to us. The first day, new employees, hopefully we can schedule it the first day, sit down with Emily and I, and we talk about leadership and personal development, teamwork, and we go over our core values and a list of things that we call expectations of one another. And it's really like how we work and why we do what we do. And we what that allows us to do is really set a tone when people start out. And then from there on, they're trained in all the different technical things, how to work the cash register, how to use our point of sale system, how to handle inventory, how to backstock, all the things that go into running the business. But we state from the beginning that training is really important. One of our core values is curiosity, and what that means for us is that we want people to ask all the stupid questions. Rather than, I think a lot of people come to us, staff, who have felt like in past jobs they've needed to figure it out on their own before someone either catches them or does something. And what a lot of our training is no, please come to us. Please come to us and ask that question that you've already asked 3 times. So that's really, really important because there's so many, it's such a complex business model. We have anywhere from 20 to 25 people working on any given day at 2 locations. We have 16,000 unique SKUs, in both stores. We have anywhere from 500 to 1,000 customer transactions a day, and we really break that down to the interactions we have. So if there are 500 transactions at our Porter Square location, that means that there's at least twice as many verbal interactions between customers and staff. And then there are all the interpersonal, like inter-team interactions that are going on. So we really try to think about it in terms of like, how can we train and design a culture that allows for people to feel like they can be calm and curious, that they can express themselves, that they can kind of be their best selves at work, so that they can show up for the customers who are coming in for a certain experience.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And one of the things you mentioned in terms of wellness, if your own employees aren't feeling confident and like their mental wellness is at a high point, they're obviously not going to be great employees for you or for your customers. How do you manage your own employees, or how do you ensure that their own wellness is where it needs to be?
Yeah, so it's a really challenging thing, especially in a business climate like this, in a really, really expensive place to live in Boston. So one of the things that we did a number of years ago was we pay 100% health insurance for all full-time employees, health and dental. So we think of that as like, something that is the right thing to do, but it's also exactly like you said, if we're selling health and wellness, we need our employees to have access to health and wellness, right? And that comes with some of the products we sell in the environment. But first, like baseline, we do that. Then 2 or 3 years ago, we decided to bump our starting rate up to $15 an hour. And that's starting, and a lot of people make more than that. But for a starting wage, that we were one of the first to go up that high in a retail environment, and we knew it was coming. We've been advocates for raising the minimum wage in Massachusetts and federally for a long time, but we knew that if our employees had less to worry about, they would be able to be present at work. And that's really, we know how it feels. We've been employees before. We know how it feels to be distracted by something that is happening outside of outside of the parameters of work, or if there's a health issue that we need to be able to, like I've started a business in my past where I didn't have access to healthcare, and it was the most like scary thing I've done in a long time, because I have pre-existing conditions like asthma, and it was a big risk, and it was something that we just know that people feel more well when they have some of these baseline things taken care of. Past that, we really try to think about what it looks like to design a culture and design conditions that allow people to feel calm, and allow for spaces for people to kind of, if they have a challenging customer interaction, to be able to step off the floor for a minute. So, it's understood that that's okay to do. You can step off the floor and say, I just need 5 minutes. I need to kind of process what just happened. Because we have, what happens is we have customers coming in who are seeking solutions to really challenging things, including mental health, and maybe, someone might come in seeking like a clean shampoo, but then they start looking around the store and they realize that, do you have anything for chronic inflammation? I feel like I've been experiencing that lately. And you know what? My mother was just diagnosed with cancer, and and all of a sudden it's 45 minutes later, and we've worked with them through an entire intergenerational like health and wellness for their family. And to be able to do that, that level of customer service, it takes a lot. So we're constantly thinking about it, and we're by no means perfect, but it's something that we're constantly thinking about and designing ways so that we can be well, because we know, like, if we're in the business of health and wellness, we think a lot about brand authenticity. Yep. If we're selling health and wellness, and you come in and you're seeking a stress supplement from someone who's clearly stressed out, like that's not good for anyone. So it's really important that we think about that, and we think about it as something that we're just constantly striving for. Like we're never going to figure it out past like that week or that month. You know, we're constantly redesigning to meet those needs, because as business grows, we just see the pressures increasing more and more.
Yeah, and especially as you guys have become such a staple in the local communities of both of your locations. So as people refer you, I know word of mouth is a big part of your business.
Yeah.
As people come in for the first time, how do you instruct your employees to approach that individual, or how do you want your employees to make that person feel when they first walk in the store? Because I walk in to this store, I'd never been to this location, and I'm not sure where to look. I probably know why I've come to the store, but I certainly don't know what the next step is.
Totally. Yeah, and it can be overwhelming. Like sometimes I walk in and I only see shapes and colors because there's so many products. But what we want our employees to do is first just welcome people in. And just by acknowledging, we borrow something from a company called Zingerman's, which is a really great local family of local independent businesses out in Ann Arbor, and they have the 10-4 rule. So it's eye contact at 10 feet and then a verbal welcome at 4 feet. They actually celebrate October 4th. Like they're really into it.
Oh, you have it down to a science.
Yeah, totally. But for us, what we, you know, we just want anyone who walks through our doors to feel welcome and safe. And from there on, and then what we do is we train and we talk amongst ourselves and work with each other to figure out, like, is that person seeking something specific? We might ask a question, but there are some people who want to be a little bit more anonymous. You know, and one of my favorite customers is, I have a few favorite customers. One is the customer who is like seeking a gift, and my favorite thing to say is, okay, what is that person like? And I get to take them around the whole store. And then the other is the new dad who is just like, he's sent in and he's just like, I have no idea what to do, and I have a list, and I usually be like, all right, you can't mess this up, can you? Like, we've got to make sure that you go home with everything you need, right? So I like to work with the people, and then the others, there are so many who just want to explore. I mean, I tell the story all the time, but there was a woman who spent 6 hours one Saturday in Cambridge Natural. She kept running into people that she met, but it creates this, and we didn't ever ask her to leave. We would never do that. We was just like, she was still by the bulk herbs table, and she was seeing her friends, and she was selling things to her, her friends, and it just became this really wonderful place. So we want people to feel welcome and seen, and like they feel like they could ask a question, but we never sell. So what's really important is that none of our employees or ourselves, we never push product on people. We'd much rather people leave and having maybe gotten a little tester of something. Ideally, we can do that because that's one of the benefits of brick and mortar retail as opposed to online retail. You can leave with a little sample of something. You can't do that online. So that's something that we like to do. And also, like, if someone might eat enough fish in their diet, but they're looking for a fish oil supplement, we might say, like, maybe you don't need this right now. Or if they have a full basket, we might say, try one of those things first, and then come back and see how you feel, right? Because we're not in the business of selling product. We're really in the business of improving people's lives, and we just do that through the selling of product and the best products we can find.
Yeah. So starting with help.
Yeah.
And just knowing everything's going to work itself
Totally.
out.
It's service. Yeah, it really is.
And one thing you mentioned was sort of you set expectations with new employees here. Are the expectations that get set always the same between you and a new employee, or is it sort of customized for each employee?
They're all the same. So we have, and we're getting better at this because it's something, we know that culture is very important. And the way that Emily and I are thinking about the business right now is that for 40 years, Michael and Elizabeth, the founders of the business, we're building a business and a market for these products. And what Emily and I are really focused on now is building the organization to support that business to meet the increased market. demand. So that is something so we're really focused on culture, and we go over the same core values and the same expectations, so that we can have that shared language amongst the whole team and say like, hey, so that was an example, a really good example of how you were curious with a customer. Or one of our favorite expectations is a complaint is a question. It used to be a complaint is a commitment, but we've shifted it to a question. But the whole premise is like, if you start to feel yourself being like, why do we do it this way? Ask a question about it. Like we might have an answer, or it might prompt us to say like, yeah, why do we do something that way? Maybe that needs improvement. So learning is the most important thing. And we know that if our employees are learning, and we're all learning as a culture, that will increase the learning that will happen when customers come in and they ask questions about things, and it'll improve their experience. So,
interesting. One of the things I think that's so important for you guys is to be able to anticipate what's coming next and think about where to take your business. And we were talking earlier, in the same way that Google can basically tell the government when the country has the flu. You guys have a similar opportunity here to know what is driving people, what's energizing them, what's bringing them down, what's stressing them out. 16,000 SKUs is a lot of SKUs across 2 locations and a relatively small team. How do you know when something is a fad or a trend, and whether or not you want to put the time into investing in it, including buying product, educating your employees, talking to customers about it? How do you try and understand what's coming next?
One might say we curate, but the joke is that we actually agonize over every single thing that comes in our store. The way we tell the difference between, we do a ton of research. We do so much research, and the way we've designed the organization is so that it's not just one person's vision, and it's not just one person buying products. So what we do is something the big word for it is distributed creative responsibility. What that really means is that most people have passed, if they've been here for a certain amount of time, they take on different levels of responsibility, whether it comes to people or product or process. So with process, we're making sure that things are improving. With people, we're making sure that training happens. But with product, that usually looks like people buying certain lines. And so across the 35 employees that we have, probably around 20 or so or more are engaged in the active finding and buying of lines, so new lines. So what we're able to do is, and we have 2 people who are the directors of buying, so we've designed the organization in a way that allows for multiple perspectives, multiple people's research, and then a dialogue about those things. We also go to all the natural products expos, but we've been around for 45 years, and what we've seen is that I was out at an expo a couple years ago, Expo West, and there was this big pitch competition for new businesses, and they were actually going to get funding at the end of, the winner was going to get some funding. And on stage, in front of 1,000 people, this woman was like, if I can get my products in Cambridge Naturals, I know I have a market. And I'm like, really? Okay. This is great. And so we've for 45 years, we've been able to kind of be the place where you get your product into. So we see a lot of the new products, so there's a high level of organizational and institutional knowledge and wisdom, and that's what's beautiful about having my in-laws involved in the business, the founders, Michael and Elizabeth, because they've seen so many of these trends. Yeah. And the fascinating thing, Emily was walking you through CBD before, and we've never seen anything like it. So, and we know that because they can say we've been in the industry for 45 years. We've never seen anything like this. But there are lots of things that we see that definitely are fads, and we're careful. And so we do a lot of research, scientific research. We read research. We have people from companies come in and train, and then we make sure that we follow up with our own research based on their product. We have a very kind of strict process for getting our company's products into the business. So we have a Partner With Us forum that has a lot of questions that we make sure are answered. And we will not bring a product in unless someone fills out all those questions, and then we are able to try things and go on from there.
Got it.
Yeah.
Got it. And then you work at that into training if it's something that is reasonable.
Yeah.
And so I've talked to thousands of business owners over the course of my career. I know, and I can tell you that not every business puts the emphasis on employee training that you guys do. What do you say to them, or what do you say to businesses that don't put that type of emphasis on training? Because it's not easy, it's time consuming, it does cost you money in one way.
Yeah.
But it's clearly one of the driving focal points of the brand value that you've been able to establish in both of your locations.
Yeah.
So how do you think about that?
Totally. I think about it in a couple ways. One is we could run a much different business, and we could have 2 people working, and you could come in and there'd be product on a shelf, and it could be what you saw on the internet, and you come grab it and you buy it and you leave, right? But that is, because we're brick and mortar, we're missing out on this incredible opportunity to engage with that person, and for learning. Like, so we're at our core, we're a knowledge exchange. Like, we're a place to come in and learn. And I think the simple way of saying it, the other way of saying it, is like, it's part of the work, right? Training your employees is a 100% part of the work. And that's why we pay our employees to be trained. You know, we know that for as much as we train, it's going to pay off over time, because we've seen it happen. I don't have a perfect spreadsheet that says exactly how one training hour invested equals this much in sales, but we know it to be true based on what we've been able to do over the years, and the way it feels. I think you know, because it's a physical space that you can walk into, it just feels different, you know. And I think because they're really curious people who want to be here and who want to share their knowledge with you, I think that's part of the experience. And if that's part of the experience, then training is part of the work.
Yeah, that's such an interesting response, because I feel like a lot of people have a similar reaction when we hear brick and mortar is so hard, local business is dying, everything's going online, and you walk into some of these stores, and my first reaction is, well, maybe you shouldn't have 7 people working here. Yeah. Maybe you could cut costs that way. And you've taken the exact opposite approach, which has actually been one of your core drivers.
Totally. We often, like, it's happened before where during the recession, this is before Emily and I got involved, but Michael will tell the story in that, you know, everyone was saying, you know, cut labor costs, cut your number of SKUs, cut costs. And he's like, no, we're going to do the opposite. We're going to market, we're going to hire more employees, because, you know, it definitely has to do with what we sell, right? Something wild happens out in the world politically, something so tragic happens. People often come in our store as a place to kind of either get away from that. I wouldn't even say get away. It's more like connect with other human beings, so that in a way, I think that's what we're missing. Like, Emily and I feel really strongly about the fact that here's an example, little preface. The UK appointed a minister for loneliness, because there is a loneliness epidemic. Yeah. And that's happening in the UK, and obviously it's happening here too, right? Yeah. So if we can be a resource for people, and they can walk away with a product that might make them feel better, right? That's part of the service we're providing. So when, you know, in a very competitive market, our way of standing out is by having really wonderful employees who are well trained and feel well, who can show up for people in a certain way. That said, it does put a lot, because we've grown maybe, you know, double digits for the last 5 years, it's not easy. You know, it brings its own challenges, which is like, how do we make sure that our culture continues to evolve and support these 35 people who work across 2 locations. So, but yeah, I think I would say, if you have the capacity to invest in more ways, it will pay off. You know, I really do believe that if you can invest in your organization, and you can invest in your culture, and you can invest in your people, you will have more invested people who will then, you know, show up in new ways and show up for customers and show up for the business.
Yeah, I love it. This has been awesome. Thank you so much for taking the time.
Thank you.
If I can ask you the same cheat question that I asked Emily, obviously you guys lead a very healthy lifestyle here, and wellness is a big part of it. But what's on your cheat list for when you have a cheat day?
Yeah, so I grew up allergic to milk.
Okay.
So I go to the grocery store and I buy just a pint of sorbet, and I will just eat the whole thing to my face, and I love it. Yeah.
Nice. I love it. Awesome, man. Well, thank you so much again for taking the time.
Thank you.